What's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome. It's a special Sunday edition of everybody's favorite show. And as always, let's kind of get this party started. It's got a good topic. I'm going to try to do more of these live streams on Sundays. We're not doing an Ask Me Anything today. Sorry, not that one. Where is it? I usually have this. There we go. Comment what city you're joining from. I want to know what city you're joining from. And I just announced this on Insta. I need to do more drops on Instagram to let people know when I'm going live, because I see this is probably the most people I've had in a few weeks. There we go. Awesome. Fantastic. Let's see. Where's everybody joining in from? We got Kevin Carson joining from Atlanta. What's up, Kevin? All right. So we're live across Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. All right. So today's topic is an interesting one. So today's topic, let me pull it up real quick, is how to use OpenPayments to drive technology adoption. Okay. Now, a lot of people actually don't know what OpenPayments is, which is why I'm doing this broadcast on it. Okay. So OpenPayments is essentially and actually I'm going to read it from a little pamphlet that they gave me, because I ran into them at a conference, caught up with them. They have some new features. So OpenPayments is a national disclosure program from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, aka CMS, that promotes a more financially transparent and accountable healthcare system. What that means, translated, is that this is a free public database for you to see where payments are coming in from when physicians are paid. So you know exactly what they're getting paid, how much they're getting paid, where they're getting paid, etc. What's interesting, and that's why I want to do an episode about this, is that they also just added to that list non-physician practitioners, NPPs, such as physician assistants, nurse practitioners, clinical nurse specialists, certified registered nurse anesthetists, anesthesiology assistants, and certified nurse midwives. Now, the reason why that's important is because in all things, we like to think we're very altruistic, but we're all out here trying to make a buck, right? And so with physicians are human beings just like anybody else. I personally believe that they should get paid by industry and get paid well, especially if they're helping to advance a new technology, provide insight on things. That's fine. However, that all being said, you got to know who you're dealing with. You got to know where their biases are, because as a salesperson or even as a marketing person, if you're dealing with somebody who has who's financially motivated to not adopt your technology, you should know that, right? And you need to understand these things, because if you don't, right, you're wasting a lot of time. Okay. All right. There we go. All right. So Kevin Carson coming in from Atlanta, and Arnie Joe Osorio. I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name there. From Tampa, Florida. Welcome to the show, Arnie. We got Quincy M. Collins from Orlando. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and just jump into it. Okay, so I'm going to show you the CMS website. Okay. I'm going to walk you through how you should think about using it. Okay. So let's jump right into it. Let me do my screen share. We're going to share a window. Here we go. Boom, blow, what's up now? Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we are on OpenPayments. So what you have to notice, first of all, here's something interesting, okay? If we go down here, so in 2021, $10.8 billion was paid out. Look what it was paid out in 2019, literally $1 billion more, right? Went down, of course, in 2020, right? But all years, they have $63.2 billion worth of data in here. Amazing. All right. So you can search an individual provider, right? And actually, I don't know if I got to a point where I had an MPI. I didn't have an MPI number. No. Yeah, I'm not going to come up. You can look up a teaching hospital and the company, all right? Now, here's some interesting things to keep in mind. When you look up a physician, right, you're going to see their profile, right? Year, general payments, nature of payments. So this physician got paid $22.2 million. It's actually the highest paid physician by Medtronic. Okay, but here's what you have to dive into data to understand this. Okay, as you can see here, every year he's making $1 to $2 million a year. Not bad, but all of that came from what? royalty and licensing. That's 99.3%. So, this surgeon developed something, and essentially that's where they're making their money. Still made some good amount of money from consulting fees, $118,000, $26,000 from services other than consulting. This is usually meaning something like speaking engagements, doing a course or something, right? So that's where that's coming from. Now, how do you interpret this? Okay, and of course, over here on the right, you can see the top companies making general payments. So of course, Medtronic made the majority of that. SI Bone made like a very, very small, $25,000 from SI Bone, right? And you see the number of payments. Okay, now the thing that you have to understand about this is that when I look at a physician who's made $22 million from a royalty and licensing deal, right? The way that I like to think about this is if they were able to successfully drive that kind of a deal with Medtronic, they might be a great person to work with and to have adopt your technology, maybe even give some advisory and equity to, because they have some insight onto something as to how to successfully sell a licensing or royalty vehicle to a Medtronic. Okay. Now, something that's really important to understand, right, is this measure right here between the mean and the median. Okay. So as you can see, not big of a difference because, these are his payments, but keep this in mind, mean and median, both of them are different ways to take the average. A mean means you take a bunch of numbers and divide it by the number of numbers. Okay. Median means that you take all the numbers that you have and line them up in sequential order from least to greatest and go with the middle number. Okay. Sometimes median is a much better way of finding the average. Okay. Why? If we look at the mean, right? For example, the mean salary or income in my neighborhood is like, let's say $400,000 or $500,000. If Bill Gates moves into my neighborhood, that mean becomes like $50 billion, right? There's no billion there. There are no billionaires in my neighborhood. Okay, so that's why you have to understand the differences between these things. So that's one physician. Let's look at something that's a little bit more spread out, right? So here we have a physician who got $1.5 million, okay, in 2021, okay. Research payments got $2,100. Associated research funding got funded for research for $20,000, okay. Now, here's what you have to understand, okay. Forget about the royalty and licensing fee. What you're most interested in is the consulting fee. So who are they getting consulted by, right? Well, if we look over here, right, with Stryker, okay, if we look at it as a table, you can see that Stryker made 47 payments to this person for $1.4 million, right? It's a lot of money. Next person in line is Next Science for $60,000, right? Now we can go down here. You can download this, of course, but you can start looking at this based on what that is. So royalty and licensing, okay, that's fine. Let me filter this out. Okay. So based on that, right, we can see the royalty and licensing fees essentially stack up like, and for some reason, oh, there we go. Now it's in order. Okay. So most of the royalty and licensing fees are coming from Stryker, right? Which is fine, except when you start coming down here, you see a lot of consulting fees coming from Stryker. Okay. Why is that important? Well, let's just put it this way. If $48,000, so 31% of this guy's income, like, industry income, came from consulting fees, and a lion's share of that came from Stryker, do you really think this guy's going to change his mind and take up a competitive product, right? Now, I know what most of you are going to say is like, oh, well, they got to do the right thing and yada, yada. Yeah, that's true. But you know what? Like, when money's involved, anything's justifiable, right? And it's very rare that you have a product that's like dramatically that much better than what's currently being used. That actually doesn't happen as often as you think. And so for this person to decide to forego this kind of income and take a smaller company on, which is definitely riskier, there's not only financial risk to that, but there's also political capital, right? So if this guy decides to take something on and it doesn't work as well, It's going to be embarrassing for them in front of their peers, their hospital, and everything. So there's all these kind of risk baked into that, plus money. The reason why I mentioned is that if you're trying to sell to this person or get them as an early adopter, this may not be the right person to go with, right? And that's the thing that I want to encourage everybody to do is like go on OpenPayments, look up the physician that you work with, look up the physicians that you're trying to sell to, and try and understand like where their biases come from, right? So for example, this is in 2021. All right, let's go to 2020. All right, 1.2 again, Stryker. But then Ethicon paid him out 152K, right? So in 2021, Ethicon paid him out 152K. In 2021, it's only 5K. What happened, right? You should try and dig into that to understand how they work, right? And if you know, either you know this person or you know somebody who works with them, you can ask that, be like, oh, I know that you did a lot of work with Stryker or with Ethicon in 2020. Why did that drop off? I'm just curious, just trying to learn. You got to learn these things, right? And again, if you filter by, see, this is 2020. Let's do all. Okay. So overall, in the last how many years? Like since 2015, they've made $8 million. Okay. The vast majority of it came from Stryker. Okay. After that, you have Ethicon, Basir, and everything. So this is important for you to know because it tells you where a person's bias is, right? And again, like there's nothing wrong with this. If they have a great relationship with Stryker, Stryker's a great organization. If they have a great relationship with Stryker, and and they have a good good partnership with them, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's perfectly fine. But again, it's important to understand these things, right? Because again, if it's this royalty and licensing thing, again, I'm making this up. If you're getting paid that much money by a company, right, and you do something to jeopardize that company's market share or revenue base, right? The company ain't gonna be. They're not gonna be stupid. Like I used to write these checks at one point, not that large, but I used to write them out. If I had a surgeon who decided to pick up a competitor's product and start like speaking for them and everything, I'm not paying him out consulting fees. I'm not doing anything for them. They're dead to me at that point. So the reason why I mentioned is that if you're trying to get them to convert or try and use your product and everything, you're dealing with a lot of psychological bias that you're probably not going to be able to overcome, right? That's the thing. So again, the more you understand about who you're dealing with and how they're getting paid out, what's important, the better, right? The other thing is, what I would say is kind of like good to see is that, you have a good mix after Stryker. You have a good mix of companies here, right? Which says that this person's open to working with industry. They worked with different companies at different levels, right? That's fine. Okay. Now, here's the other side of OpenPayments that's very interesting. And I don't know what you can do this, what kind of information you can use this for. But like if you're a startup CEO, here's how you can use OpenPayments. Okay. You can look up a company. So Medtronic, all right, in 2021 paid out $141 million. $141 million out. 51 millions were done in research payments. Okay. If you scroll down, okay, you can see what's the majority of that money being paid towards, right? Consulting fees, etc. But you can also see who were the highest or top recipients receiving general payments, right? And again, we talked about this, like these are like really astronomical numbers, right? But a lot of these things are because there's, there are royalties and payments, right? There's licensing involved. So again, if we go to this gentleman here, right? If we scroll down, see, $19 million were paid out in royalty and licensing. It's 100%, right? This person made $6K off of consulting fees, right? Versus if we go with this gentleman here, again, another thing, just mainly royalties and licensing, okay? Now, I'm sure you guys are wondering, what about other companies? Let's look at a few other companies. So Stryker paid out $112 million in 2021, okay? And again, like a big line share of what they're paying out is like royalty and licensing fees to physicians. And of course, the consulting fees, $22 million, which is about 19%. Kind of interesting to compare that to Medtronic, because as you can see with Medtronic, like they paid out 4.5% in consulting fees, right? They actually, you know what? What's funny? Medtronic paid more in 2021 for food and beverage than they did for consulting fees, right? So that's very interesting to see. You know, and again, it kind of gives you, as a physician, it kind of gives you an idea of how these companies think about things, right? If you look at Intuitive, though, look at the difference. Okay, so Intuitive, $53 million was paid out, but 60%, over 60% of that was towards education. And look, the top recipients, hospitals, right? Minus like a couple of people here, which were probably, you know, through royalties and licensing, right? And so, how would you interpret that? As, you know, just as a in general, the way I interpret this is that the way Intuitive sees product adoption is that they have to protect the development of their product by making sure that educational institutions and academic centers are funded for research and also for training programs, so all the residents and fellows get trained on a Da Vinci system. It's a great way to make sure that your technology is adopted, right? Versus, let's see, I don't know if Auris was acquired by J&J. Auris may not be, or Auris Health is here, yeah. Auris Health, yeah, but this is, yeah, see, they have no history past a certain point, you know? Let's look at Ethicon. Ethicon, $3.2 million, right? Again, mainly consulting fees. Okay, why is that? Well, because Ethicon's a division of J&J, so anything that's going to be paid out for royalties or licensing, it's going to be paid out through J&J, right? If you look at DePuy, $69 million. By the way, just a side note, I noticed that a lot of the payments are like highest in the orthopedic world. Not sure why. I'm sure I can come up with a theory as to why, right? But again, if you look at DePuy now, see, DePuy is very interesting because they got $53 million in royalties and licensing, and that's striking to me too, because like DePuy is actually a division of J&J. Now let's look at Zimmer Biomet. Zimmer Biomet, $61 million. Again, same thing. Like, look at that. 75% is royalties and licensing, right? So that would be something very interesting to dive into. And actually, maybe that's something that I do for the shows. I try and convince one of these people to join the show. So that's the lesson that I wanted to cover today. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Questions at all? Nope. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you found it educational, and happy selling. Take care, everybody.